with a very, very wild emotional swing. So why does this happen? It happens because of the difficulty with emotional regulation. So what people with BPD do is when they start to feel abandoned, right? Because you had these 3 days where y'all were joint at the hip, and then you don't text someone back, what that person does is they start to feel abandoned. As they start to feel abandoned, remember, they start to suffer more than you do. So whereas like fear of abandonment may hurt you a little bit, like it's really intense for them and lasts for a whole day. And then what they start doing is they start engaging in behaviors to kind of bring you back. And so then they'll start texting you really toxic stuff, right? Or they'll bounce between like really toxic and like really sad things that like really pull at your heartstrings. They're like apologizing, I'm so sorry, I'm crying, like, oh my God, like, will you ever forgive me? And it's like, then you feel like an asshole, they make you feel guilty. So you're like, yeah, of course I'll forgive you. It's okay, right? And so it's like your emotions become this ping pong ball. And why do your emotions become a ping pong ball? Because their emotions are a ping pong ball. And they're kind of getting bounced all over the place. Which brings us to the second thing that's very common in BPD relationships, which is the feeling of mixed signals. Well, kind of like a pendulum, this kind of comes down to this fear of abandonment. So sometimes what happens when people have BPD is when they're engaged in a relationship, you know, what's going to happen is like things are going pretty well and y'all are having lots of fun, but in the back of their mind, they've been abandoned so much in the past, right? Because they got abandoned as kids. So there's like that seat of trauma back there. And then they've had so many relationships which were so amazing. And how did those relationships always end up? The other person always ended up leaving, right? Because like they couldn't deal with the crazy. So they left. And so each time someone can't deal with the crazy, it traumatizes them further, increases the fear of abandonment. So now what they know, they're going to try to protect themselves and they're going to try to protect you. And the way that they're going to do that is when things are good, they're going to start to, when is the other shoe going to drop? When are things going to go back to the way that they always end up? Because remember, it happens 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, 10 times. So it's got to happen 11th time, right? So then what they'll start to do is they'll start to push you away. And they'll start to test you, right? They'll start to say things that will feel a little bit weird. It'll feel really emotionally manipulative. And all this emotional manipulation, by the way, is pretty unconscious. So that's like something you got to give them a pass for if you can. So they'll start to like do things like, oh yeah, you know, I know that this week has really been fantastic and I know that we're deeply in love, but you know, I know it won't last. They'll say something like that. And you'll be like, no, baby. Like, of course it'll last. Like, no, don't think that. Like, I'll be here for you forever. And they'll say, no, you won't. You know, you're just saying that today, but tomorrow it'll change, right? No relationships last forever. And you're like, no, baby, no. And so then you reassure them.